When you know something is not right, you have to be the voice to fix it. And we were able to make national news saving this hospital, national news that other folks have done in other cities. And that is the community's voice can move things and shape things forward when you come together. Working alongside of the governor and the mayor at the time, pushing them to give us the resources, pushing.
Fought for the Fourth Ward. When Mercy Hospital was scheduled to close, I protested, and with the community's help, we saved it. As a state representative, I've brought millions of dollars for a senior center, banned assault weapons, spearheaded a bill to replace lead pipes, and created jobs and affordable housing in the Fourth Ward. I'm an educator and a local business owner. Safe neighborhoods and equitable schools are my top priorities. I'm Lamont Robinson, and I'm ready to work tirelessly as your Fourth Ward Alderman.
Welcome back to Vibrational Wellness with Tariq Baptiste, where we explore the energy shaping our lives. So this season is a season based on 5 influential people. So Alderman Robinson is a person that not only in the community shines through as an inspiration, but even in his family life, he's a person that shines through with inspiration. So I wanted to bring him on the show to really kind of get to know him a little better and allow him to speak to you guys directly. So welcome to the show, Alderman Lamont Robinson.
Thank you.
Glad to have you on. So give us your current political sitting position.
Repeat the question for me, please.
Your current political sitting position.
I'm a Democrat.
Okay.
In the city of Chicago.
Okay. So what originally drew you into public service and civic leadership?
What drew me into public service is I have a mother that was a Chicago public school teacher.
Okay.
I have a father, unfortunately, he is no longer with us, that was a building inspector. And so I grew up in a household having parents that were both public servants.
Interesting. So growing up with a mother who was a school teacher, kind of expound on that a little bit.
My fondest memories with my mother going back to school shopping.
Okay.
And so instead of having 2 or 3 notebooks, pens, pencils, my mother would have 30 pencils, 30 notebooks, 30 pens in the basket because she would give those to her students. She taught in an area of the city of Chicago called Inglewood.
Okay.
It's one of the most low-income areas in the city of Chicago, and a lot of her students were in need. And so my mother was not only shopping for me, she was shopping for her students. And we know that teachers don't make as much money as other income, as other folks in other industries. And so that was the first step for me knowing about public service and giving, because I remember asking her, why do we have so many notebooks in the cart? My mother told me that those are for her students, and her students were in need. I'll give you another example, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
You remember us having the Reebok Pump It Ups,
okay,
and the starter coats. And if my mother thought that I didn't wear those shoes or that starter coat, and I would look for, those items, could be a month later or a year later, they would be gone. Wow. My mother would give my clothes to her students because many of her students, again, were in need. And so I grew up, again, in a household of giving. And that is why I wanted to go into public service.
Wow. So having a mom who was not only a school teacher, but even an advocate in a lot of ways, I can see how that shaped you for public service. Okay, so what age did little Lamont decide that politics was the way to go?
I grew up on the south side of Chicago in a community called Chatham,
Southside?
in between two communities. One community of firefighters, policemen, school teachers on King Drive, and then on Cottage Road was a different world. Unfortunately, gangs, violence, drugs. And so I grew up, as we talk about a tale of two cities, I grew up in a tale of two neighborhoods.
Okay.
But my godfather was a alderman, and I grew up in his office. I grew up listening to conversations that he was having. I grew up going to community meetings. As we think about the life of Jesse Jackson, God rest his soul, peace be with him. My parents would take me to his Saturday forums. And so that is really the makeup of Lamont. Those seeds were planted at an early age for me, and it has shaped me into the elected official that I am today.
Okay. So for those who are kind of newer to politics or just like the general consensus of people who have heard these positions and titles but aren't really familiar with the role, can you explain what a state representative does and what an alderman does as it relates to the community?
Sure. A state representative, we pass laws, we amend laws, and we appropriate money. Okay. We send money to municipalities like the city of Chicago, the largest city in the state of Illinois. A alderman or member of the city council, you could think about a manager of a town. I represent 50,000 people. And so what's under my purview is infrastructure, filling in potholes, making sure that lights are on.
Kind of hugging the city a little bit.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We also pass what are called ordinances. They are laws within the confines of the city of Chicago. But really an alderman is like a small town mayor. We are the mayor of the area that we represent.
Okay, so you are the 4th Ward alderman.
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about the 4th Ward and even some of your intentions for the 4th Ward as an alderman.
So the 4th Ward goes as far south as 53rd Street, so Hyde Park. Hyde Park, for a lot of folks, will be the home of the University of Chicago.
Okay.
So 53rd Street is split between the 4th Ward and the 5th Ward. It goes along the lakefront all the way to Jackson. And so I have an area that I represent, Hyde Park. Kenwood. Kenwood is the home to Barack Obama.
Okay.
It's home here in the city of Chicago. We have an area called North Kenwood, Bronzeville, which is a historic area like Harlem. And then the next community would be Printers Row.
Okay.
And the Loop. And so I represent an area of high net worth, middle class, and low income.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the transition from state's representative to alderman. So you talked about the alderman kind of more so being maybe like a sectional mayor, right?
Correct.
So what was the transition like from going to kind of like a larger stage to more of a smaller space?
No, it wasn't tough for me because, again, I grew up with a godfather that was an alderman, so I kind of had the idea. And for me, the shift was being on the ground, making my community better, making where I live a better community, making sure that it was clean, making sure that it was safe. There are areas within the ward that we have high propensity of drug sales, loitering, and we were able to make some adjustments and clean up those areas. And that is because of the work of my office, the work with Chicago Police Department, the work with the community. That is absolutely different from being what we would consider a statesman. State team, you go down to Springfield, you're working with Republicans again to amend laws, bring in new laws, appropriate money, but you are away from home. You're away from the day-to-day issues that affect people's lives. And so for me, I was happy to make that transition, but it has been a big step because this job is literally 24/7. Unfortunately, when things do happen, in the area that I represent, I receive those calls at night. And you never know when those calls are going to happen. People would see me as a state rep, or they would wave and say hello at a restaurant or grocery shopping as the alderman.
They're going
to walk up to you and they want to tell you what their issues and concerns are. So it's two totally different worlds from a state rep now being in the city council.
Okay, so that actually answers my next question I was going to ask. Like, what was it like kind of transitioning to more of city work? But you spoke to that, it being a little different. We take on challenges like giants, but a little different, but more intimate with the community.
And no place to hide. As a state rep, you had some autonomy to be able to kind of go in places, and nobody really knows who you are. In this town, everybody knows their own. This is a town that you might not know your congressperson, your state rep, or your state senator. You know the mayor, and you know your own.
So, of course, I've done my research on you, which is why we ended up here. What is the legacy that you would like to leave from the positions you've held in the community? What is the legacy you would like to leave with the community as a whole? When we think of Lamont Robinson, what would you like for the people to think first?
I want people to think that Lamont helped. Lamont was the person that you would call to be able to get things done, whether you were a constituent of his or not. And when I think about legacy, I think about the heart of the Fourth Ward is Cottage Grove area where you could buy a suit, you could grab a cup of coffee, you could have a nice breakfast, you could grab an adult beverage and have a nice meal. I want that to come back. And so my legacy is to develop the Cottage Grove corridor to bring businesses back, to also bring housing back. And what's important to me is I want to bring affordable housing for working folks.
Okay.
I want to bring affordable housing for folks to be able to purchase. And I want to bring affordable rents for businesses. You can bring businesses in, but is it affordable? Are they able to pay that rent for them to be successful? And so again, my legacy is to repopulate the Fourth Ward and to make it a place that is safe and walkable and people want to come to.
So not only plans, but execution. So what has been one of the greatest challenges you've had in, I'll say, your political career and serving the community, and how did you transform it?
I think the biggest challenge that I have is being able to balance everything. I am one that wants to help everybody. I want to help folks that are in the Fourth Ward, and I want to help folks in the city of Chicago. And I have a staff of 3. And so, you think about the mayor of the city of Chicago and the staff that he has. And so it's a challenge to be able to help and service everybody. But I balance that by building relationships in all the city departments to be able to, again, move this city forward. Look, the city of Chicago, I owe a lot to. I could have gone down a myriad different roads. I talked about growing up in between the tale of 2 cities. Mm-hmm. The only reason that I'm here as a successful elected official, as a successful educator, as a successful businessman, is because I was exposed. And people in the city of Chicago looked out for me. And so I'm really here I'm really here to pay it forward. I want to give back to the city that gave me a great opportunity. And that is why I'm in public service today.
Okay. So that speaks to, I'll say, transforming those challenges into growth, right? So as you spoke about earlier, having a mom who was in community service, and that pretty much is kind of training you on that road. I think that definitely speaks to a solid legacy of, okay, when you think of me, just think that I helped. I want you to think and know that I helped. Okay, so can you share a moment where a setback, this could be political or even personal, a setback shaped your perspective, like reshape your perspective, and how you were able to come back from that? One thing I've learned about you in studying your political career, you have these transformative vibes where you can connect to something, see where it is and what it is, and then transform it into something better. Like, you are the epitome of a visionary. So explain to us something that was a potential setback for you, but you reshaped your perspective from it.
I'm going to look at two or give two examples. I think that it's important. So my first early setback was trying to buy my first business.
Okay.
Or really buy a business. And that's an Allstate insurance agency. I was told to reach out to 3 banks. Allstate Bank, Allstate had its own bank. There are 2 other banks that I'm not going to name. I'll throw Allstate out there because I am a member of the Allstate brand and family. But at the time, they wouldn't finance me. And the challenge was I wanted to buy this book of business from an African American in the 4th Ward. But when you talk about that vision, the vision of wanting to own my own business and not giving up, and going to that agent and asking them, could they seller finance the book of business? I didn't even know really what seller financing really was. Mm-hmm. I just knew that 3 banks turned me down and I needed somebody to help me finance this deal. And that agent sacrificed and took a chance on me, young African American. I think I was 24 at the time, helped me finance that business. We've grown that business into 3 agencies, purchased 1, bought 3 others.
Wow.
Because of an African American man giving me an opportunity. So that's the first for me that I was turned down. Education through the Clark Atlanta University School of Business, I prepared myself, pushed my shoulders back, put a smile on, and talked about why this man should take a risk on me, a risk that has paid dividends for the both of us. That's the first step. The second step is knowing that others think that something should close. Others think that, we should not put our political energy, our political will into this. That would be saving Mercy Hospital. Mercy Hospital in the city of Chicago is one of our oldest hospitals. It has been serving the African American community for 100 years.
Wow.
That hospital was on the brink of closure. I learned of this hospital's closure in our newspaper, and I called around to other elected officials that make up that hospital, and there was no sense of urgency. And through pulling together community folks, pulling together the religious community, pulling together the unions, pulling together nurses and doctors at other institutions, we had a year-long fight to save this hospital. Because if we don't have our health, we don't have anything.
Yes.
And so that for me was the start of when you know something is not right, you have to be the voice to fix it. And so through COVID, putting myself at risk, my family's health at risk, and others, we were able to make national news saving this hospital. National news that other folks have done in other cities. And that is the community's voice can move things and shape things forward when you come together. Working alongside of the governor and the mayor at the time, pushing them to give us the resources, pushing Trinity, which is the parent company of Mercy Hospital, which is a large hospital chain, to do what is right for this community. And now that hospital is open today because of the work of the community.
Wow.
And not just stepping back and saying, you know, this hospital has been around 100 years, we should let it go. Passing that hospital now, I couldn't imagine passing that hospital now boarded up. Not only if we think about the lives that are saved there, we also think about the workers. We think about the contracts. We think about what would that do to a community by having this hospital that has been around for 100 years to close its doors.
Wow.
And so for me, again, it is why listening to community and pulling them in and asking for their support is a keystone to my development as an elected official.
So I think that really, again, speaks to the visionary in you. Being able to see that, you know, this hospital is under threat and going in with a clear objective and executing it. That's one of the major things that I really admire about you in your political career, execution. Like, there's not too many things that I've seen you put your hands to publicly that hasn't come to fruition. So what advice would you have for, and I'm gonna ask you a twofold question. What advice would you have for someone who is aspiring a political career? What advice would you have on like those first steps? And then what advice would you have for a person who is that 24, 25-year-old that wants to take an entrepreneurial step, but don't know where to start?
First and foremost, I always tell folks that you have to have a community resume. You want to go into politics, you have to be involved in the community.
Check.
You have to get on the school board, you have to get on the library board, you have to get on a community board, you have to go and go to your local school, raise your hand, ask how you can be helpful. Those are the things that you need to do way before you decide to run for office. Because when you run for office, you have to be able to go to a constituent or resident and share at least 3 things that you have done in that community.
That's good.
And folks forget about that. Folks think the work will start when you get in office. The work should have already started. And so again, you have to have a community resume. What have you done in the community where you live, the community that you want to serve? As it relates to folks that want to be entrepreneurs, learn the business prior to. Prior to me being an Allstate agent, I worked for State Farm as an agent. I worked for AAA Insurance as an agent. I learned the insurance business on someone else's dime. And by the time I was able to open up my own business, I knew the rights and wrongs. I knew what to do. I knew what not to do because I had the experience working for other agents. And so if you want to open up your own salon, you want to open up your own sandwich shop, whatever business you want to grow in, I would highly recommend you go and understudy. You go and work in that business before you start your own.
Put that time in.
Absolutely.
Put that time in. Okay, so what would you want your current community following to know about leadership? What is one of the important factors that you would want the citizens to know about leadership?
I think that leadership is again, stepping up, taking the punches, taking the hits, sometimes could be separating yourself for everybody else's good. When you are a leader, you have to put other people before you. That is leadership. And that is something that I live by each day, that it is not about Lamont. It is about the residents I serve in the 4th Ward and overall in the city of Chicago.
So those are really pure humanitarian vibes. So last question, if you could leave the audience with one message, what would that message be?
Do not give up. And in the spirit of Reverend Lewis Jackson, keep hope alive. In the spirit of Reverend Dr. Lewis Jackson, keep hope alive. There's a lot of red herrings out here. There's a lot of craziness going on. We have to keep hope, and we have to keep pushing on. We will get through this.
Yes.
We've been through this before.
Yes.
We know what to do, particularly as Black folk,
yes,
to be able to move forward. We cannot put our head down now. We cannot throw in the towel. This is when we fight. And that would be my message to you.
Jack?
Yes. Okay. So let's talk a little bit. You being Chicagoan through and through, I want to throw some things out at you and see what's your take on it. So Harold's Chicken or Uncle Remus?
Harold's Chicken every day, all day.
Blues or jazz?
Jazz. Although we are the home to one of the original legends, particularly in the 4th Ward, and that's Buddy Guy. Buddy Guy's Legends is one of his great establishments here in the 4th Ward, city of Chicago, the area that I represent. So I'm gonna have to say blues today.
Blues, okay. Spain. Last one, policy meetings or community town halls?
Community town halls.
Why would you say community town halls?
Because you have to continue to keep your ear to the pulse of the community.
Okay.
And you want to know what their issues and concerns are in order to be able to move policy.
Alderman Lamont Robinson, I really appreciate you for coming in and dropping your wisdom and gems. This has been a great interview.
Thank you for having me.
Talk to you soon. Okay, that's a wrap.
So if you enjoyed this content and you'd like to see more of it, hey, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hope to see you again.